afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram and Shreve here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, Wednesday, November 22nd. Maybe a little bit of a sleepy day ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday, but still a lot of interesting stock action to take a look at and an update on Wall Street headed into the holiday, Ken.
Yes, indeed. Maybe call it a hesitant gain for the NASDAQ, up a 0.5%, but it was up 1.1% intraday, so that backed off highs. But I want to take a look at a couple of semiconductor stocks. First of all, Advanced Micro Devices, AMD. They're aiming to compete with Intel in data centers. ARM Holdings, which recently came public, working its way up the right side of a first stage IPO base. And finally, Comfort Systems, FIX.
Sounds like a plan. We'll get to those stocks, but first, let's take a look at the major indexes. As Ken mentioned, the Nasdaq up about 0.5% today, but off earlier highs. We have the S&P 500 up 0.4%. Even stronger was the Dow, up a little more than 0.5% today, and the Russell 2000 leading today's gains, up 0.7%. So we're looking at the Nasdaq here. You mentioned a hesitant gain, closing off highs, but nothing too concerning here, it seems like, for the bulls.
No, not at all. It was, volume has dried up this week in the market. Again, today kind of had the feel of a stalling type session where the NASDAQ wasn't able to hold on to a big percentage gain. And when that happens up near highs, sometimes that can be a warning sign of maybe more weakness. But we didn't have any volume behind the Nasdaq give back today. So yeah, we've come up sharply off the lows. The Nasdaq is kind of contending with that high of 14,446. It came to within 100 points of that.
Yeah.
So it's really at a point you can see not much consolidation on the way up here. So maybe at a point where we could just kind of drift lower and move sideways. If we do it, we'd like to see lower volume. If we start to see increasing signs of distribution, higher volume declines, that would be a sign that maybe we're ready to come in a little bit here. But again, we've had one distribution day on the NASDAQ since November 1st. We eliminated that distribution day from the count because the index rallied more than 5% from that one higher volume decline. So yeah, market's looking good here. Very little in the way of distribution. But again, people talking about an overbought market, probably true to some extent, but sometimes these markets can just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. This overbought, oversold oscillator isn't quite showing that, but we have seen just really strong gains over the last 3 weeks. I mean, for the month of November, the NASDAQ up 11%. So a very strong month taking shape, Ken.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think the leaderboard model portfolio, we're well north of 90% invested at this point, and started putting some money to work after that November 1st follow through day for the Nasdaq Composite. So if you were kind of flat-footed around that time, November 1st, November 2nd, when indexes were following through, it's getting tougher now to find actionable setups. There's a lot of extended stocks out there, so it's okay to be patient and wait for the setups to come to you. But we've come a long way in a short amount of time, so maybe playing a little bit of defense here isn't a bad idea, but still be open to the fact that we're still in a confirmed uptrend that still has plenty of positive things working for it.
Exactly. We'll continue to keep an eye on that 14,000 level and maybe get the 21-day line to catch up to the action. And it'd be great if we see this power trend continue for that level to act as support. And who knows, we might see some follow-on setups happen if that can occur.
Yep, that's the way I'm looking at things. Again, when you look at a lot of our growth screens, there's a lot of stocks that have moved quite a bit. So you want to be careful of chasing stocks that have moved, sort of like the composite has here. There's a lot of individual charts that look like the Nasdaq. But tell you, when you look at the growth screens, there may be not too many stocks that are near buy areas at this point, but there are plenty that are holding gains and showing strength and support after breakouts, and that's a big positive as well.
It sure is. Let's take a look at the S&P 500. Ken, what are you seeing here?
Same situation. S&P 500 coming, coming close to that high there, 451, and also 460-ish. So again, it's at a point where maybe we'll start to drift lower here, and kind of a similar look to the Nasdaq. A big move off lows without much consolidation, but a lot of stocks working well in this index as well.
And here's a look at the Dow.
Dow, holding 35,000 for now. I think all three of these index charts are very similar. So we've got bond yields that are still staying under some pressure here. That's providing a bid for stocks. You've got the U.S. dollar that has been weak, right along with that 10-year yield. So both of these are working in the market's favor here, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay. One of the stories today, too, though, Ken, energy. Here's XLE able to erase almost its entire loss for the day. USO at the open down 4% or 4.4%. It was able to come back to a decline of just 1.3% by session's close. But what are your thoughts on what we're seeing in the energy sector?
Well, I think the story today was you had an OPEC meeting that was originally scheduled for this coming Sunday, but OPEC Plus and member nations delayed the meeting for 4 days, and that kind of fueled rumors that there may be some infighting among OPEC members about production cuts. Production cuts are still in place, and there's talk: are we going to cut production even more to support prices? They delayed the meeting for 4 days, so there's that fueled concerns that there may be some bickering going on between OPEC members. But we'll wait and see. That meeting will be next week as opposed to Sunday. But I think that's what caused that initial move lower in oil today.
Okay. And we know energy has a pretty heavy weighting in small cap. So here's a look at IWM. It's been a little wild lately, maybe tightening up a bit. But of course, we've got this 180 level and the 200-day line as resistance levels above to keep an eye on. Thoughts on small caps?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think small caps are out of the woods yet. Of course, you had that huge 5.5% gain that was around the time the market was following through, and then it ran right up to the 200-day moving average, which looks like it's a resistance level for now. The weekly chart here showing the 40-week line being resistance. So I think small caps are still challenged here. But I would feel much better about the Russell 2000 IWM on the daily chart if it can get back above that 200-day moving average and start to move sideways. Until it does that, still looks like it's on a downtrend here.
Okay. And of course, there was a lot of buzz about Nvidia today because earnings came out last night and the stock down about 2.5%. This was one stock that did have heavy trading today, Ken, even though it was a pretty quiet day overall. But really, perhaps maybe the attention today should be on chip stock AMD because it was up on the day by about 2.8% and had a breakout attempt.
Yeah, it kind of closed off highs like the Nasdaq did, but it did cross a new buy point today, and this breakout, like you said, occurred right near this 120 level. When a stock forms a handle, which is what AMD did, I mean, you'd like to see a good downward drifting shakeout. It doesn't need to be a massive price decline. To me, this handle that AMD formed, there wasn't much of a shakeout, but it did pass a buy point today, breaking out over some of its recent highs. So this is, I think, a stock that is still worth watching. Obviously, Nvidia is the leader in this space, but Advanced Micro Devices in early December, they're going to be holding an event called Advancing AI, where they're going to be announcing their new i300 accelerator. This is the data center chip that's going to compete with NVIDIA's H100. So a lot of optimism here. When AMD reported earnings about 3 months ago, or just recently, actually, they said that this MI300 could do $2 billion in sales in 2024, and that's what really fueled that move above the moving averages for AMD. So some good stuff going on at AMD. It's strong performer, and I think it's a stock still worth watching here to be a good competitor with Nvidia.
Yeah, and elsewhere in the chip space, we want to check in on ARM Holdings, up about 5.3% on the day, closing off highs, but getting above the 60 level. We talked about this stock earlier in the week when it cleared an alternative pivot within the base around this 56 area, and it's just been extending gains since. If you look at the weekly chart, Ken, a big week taking shape for the stock, up more than 12%. We've got that RS line blue dot underscoring price outperformance versus the S&P 500. So this definitely seems like a semi stock to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And this is just a classic example of a first stage IPO base. We haven't seen, a lot of great things in the IPO market in recent months. But when you look at this technical setup, first of all, you had a nice turnaround quarter for ARM. You can see in the latest quarter, their earnings were up 118%, revenue up 28%. This is a company that actually Nvidia at one point was interested in buying from SoftBank, which at one point owned ARM Holdings. There was too much regulatory scrutiny from the UK, so they abandoned plans. They were going to pay $40 billion to acquire ARM, but they walked away from the deal. So ARM Holdings is, it's interesting to me because, again, it's a first stage IPO base. Still has a little more work to do to complete the base, but I think in the semiconductor area, this is definitely one to keep an eye on.
It is. Okay, so with a powerful week like this week, maybe a handle would be good to see here at this stage.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to or try to retest the prior high soon after it came public. So anytime a cup type pattern forms like this and the stock works its way higher and approaches the left side high, sometimes you get that a little bit of a kind of the last shakeout before the breakout. So you get a little low volume pullback, last remaining sellers exit the stock, and that could pave the way for a nice upside breakout here. There does appear to be a pretty decent fundamental story that's to pay attention to here. So, and if it's a company that Nvidia was very interested in buying not that long ago,
Right.
maybe one worth watching here.
Yeah. Okay, lastly, let's take a look at FIX. This is Comfort Systems. This is a group building AC and heating products. You wouldn't think that it would be too dynamic, but this is a pretty dynamic stock, and the group is ranked number 8 out of 197. Today, shares perking up 2.6%. Volume was light, but the stock has had a strong move since that earnings report in October.
Yeah, it initially gapped above its 50-day moving average on that earnings report. And then again, here's an example of how a stock kind of moves up towards a recent high and then drifts lower like FIX did. That fueled a nice little breakout, looks like last week. Now it's just been a little low volume pullback as the stock holds above the 10-day moving average and still in a buy zone. So people that have a little bit of money to put to work, this stock looks like it's still in a buy zone to me. And you mentioned this industry group, very, very strong. Not a sexy business at all, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, but leadership is pretty broad based in this group. And Comfort Systems is, in a buy zone here and looking pretty strong.
All right. Well, thank you, Ken. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Of course, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Ken, this year really has flown by, hasn't it?
It sure has. Thanksgiving is going to be a great day tomorrow. So I want to wish everybody out there a very happy Thanksgiving, and we'll be back here on Friday for a half day of trading.
Yeah, we will. So Friday's show is going to go live shortly after 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern with the shortened trading day. So the team will see you a little earlier in the day after Turkey Day on Friday. And we've got you covered in the meantime on investors.com. So keep tabs on the news at investors.com. And the team will see you on IBD Live on Friday as well. And hope everyone has a great, happy Thanksgiving. See you back here on Friday.